Thank you for staying with us. And this morning, the conversation will be a two-legged one. But firstly, during the papers, there was a story about the NSA, Nuhu Ribadu, former presidential candidate of the AC, and actually at the time, AC, I think AC. And, he's of the APC right now. But very importantly, he sits, on the desk that coordinate security in Nigeria. He's the coordinator because he's a national security advisor. Many persons are worried to say some of his speeches are too political. And so they feel that might inform some of the decisions being taken at the highest level of security in Nigeria. Because he's the man who advised the president on security. He coordinates. He's the one on that desk. Even immediately the president came in, it was Nuhu Ribadu was reported, was seen, defending the administration, not in terms of security, but in political terms. And he was saying whatever is happening now, the last administration caused it. And he has made other pronouncements, a couple of them, which is part of what we are looking at today. Talking about, this one, it has to do with security, but some of the claims that he made has been controversial. So we'd like to look into that. We allow you to be the judge of that. Please.
You need to go around and see how things have changed. There is no part of Nigeria today you cannot move free. No part. There is no way where you can say people are in captivity. It's a lie. You cannot completely say criminals and bad people will stop what they are doing. But our ability to respond is what matters. Anywhere, anything happen in this country today, you'll be there. And you will address it, and you will reverse it, and you will change it, and you will give us back our lives. For the first time, I can assure. In Nigeria today, I can assure you, because of the role you are playing, you, the leadership of the armed forces, you make everyone feel at home. The intelligence community, the civil police, all the others, when they are in their midst, they feel one. They feel very, very comfortable. And I can assure you, it's part of what we are witnessing, the progress and the change taking place in our country. Things have changed in this country since you came in, you as leaders. We are proud of you. You are defending the territorial integrity of our country. You are defending our democracy. You are defending law and order. You are making a difference. Our neighbors are losing to terrorists, to insurgents. You are standing tall. You are what we are, and Nigeria is what it is because of what you are doing. And I can assure you, yes, people will talk. Politicians will do their politics. Don't mind, don't bother, don't ever feel. Nigeria is in good hands and Nigeria is in good shape. Nigeria is moving, Nigeria is progressing. We are improving. If you see the reforms that, or changes that took place in the last 2 years, it's unprecedented. Things that have been on for decades, some of them 30 years or more, challenges that ordinarily will bring down countries, we are still standing strong. We are addressing them. You need to go around and see how things have changed. There is no part of Nigeria today you cannot move free. No part. There is no way where you can say people are in captivity. It's a lie. You cannot completely say criminals and bad people will stop what they are doing. But our ability to respond is what matters. Anywhere, anything happen in this country today, you'll be there. And you will address it, and you will reverse it, and you will change it, and you will give us back our...
All right, that is, Nigerians, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. We have a public affairs analyst joining us. He's a human rights activist, so he will have a knowledge of what the human rights watch is under this administration, how human rights are protected, not just as human, because part of human rights is to be protected, not just in terms of protest, everybody has a right, every Nigerian has a right to be protected and to move around within the confines of the law anytime, anywhere. And that is the assurance that the NSA has given in that statement to say you can move around anywhere, you know, and that will be Comrade Ayọ Ologun joins us virtually. Comrade, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you had Malam Nuhu Ribadu. What's your impression of those bold claims that he's making? And many persons want to agree and say it's the man who, you know, sits on that desk, so he knows what he's saying. Do you agree?
Well, on a very light note, I don't know if there was a DJ at that event where he was speaking. If there was one, that DJ should have simply placed that popular team, DJ YK Mule. And maybe that would have possibly answered every claim that you call bold that Nuhu Ribadu is making. Of course, you don't need to go and double check. You don't even need to do a research before you know that every word spoken by Nuhu Ribadu in that clip or at that event was simply absolute lies. And he even indicted himself when he said, don't worry, politicians will play their politics, but don't be detached. And what exactly he was doing at that event was simply politics. Even this morning, looking at your scroll bar, the scroll bar on your screen, there is a news that said that 12 vigilantes, 8 or 12 or thereabouts, were ambushed and killed in Plateau State. You reported, while you were reading the newspaper this morning, that Agwata local government in Anambra is under siege. Many people killed. You will also recall that Mr. President, a couple of weeks back, maybe about 2 weeks or thereabouts, if not less, visited Benue State to commiserate with the people of Benue State on the killing of over 150 people. And Mr. President openly called out head of security agencies and asked them what they were doing, as there have been no arrests since that incident. So one man, under the title of the office of the NSA, all of a sudden, I don't know what side of the bed he woke up from, could be speaking lies so boldly, tells you how often leaders across board, governors, presidents, how often they get deceived by the people that are supposed to give them information. I don't know if Nigerians know how sensitive the office of the NSA is. That is the coordinating office for all security matters. The chief of staff, the chief of army staff, chief of naval staff, chief of defense, the AI, the IG, and the rest of them ordinarily reports to his office. Security reports are transmitted to the office of the NSA to the desk of Mr. President, which means, suffice to say, that it is only in most cases, if not all, except for a very smart president who have other channels, most things, if not all the things that Mr. President gets to know about security in any part of the country gets to him through the office of the National Security Advisor. And here is the man who is supposed to put the president on his toes, claiming that anyone can move from any part of the country to another. I doubt if you and I don't even know. I don't know what anybody can say to convince me that you would. I don't know the urgency of the matter that will make me jump on a bus or a car, as the case may be, and say I'm going to Abuja. I can't remember when last in the last 10 years I dared that, because, well, I still have my little life to live. I dare anyone to wake up at night and say you are traveling to Enugu or you are traveling to the mid-country. A policeman, how many battlefronts has he been to? How many troops has he led? How much part of the country has he traveled to? And you say as a retired ACP, he should know. What should he know? AFC is a different ball game. AFC is Financial Crime Commission. He was dealing with financial crimes as the head while he was there. How does that relate to the security of the country? Have you seen the United Kingdom or the US or Russia or anybody appointing somebody of the rank of ACP in the police which you call, I've forgotten what they call it now, marshals in other countries. Have you seen them appointing such a man as the security advisor to the president? As security advisor to the president, you must be maybe a retired general. You must have led troops. You must have coordinated the nation's military forces in battles. That is the kind of man that can know. You tell me that an ACP in the police.
Oh, okay.
Not safe.
All right, Mr. Ologun.
What does he know?
All right, Mr. Ologun. Looking at the statement of Malam Nuhu Ribadu in that clip, at some point, personally, I was almost confused as a Nigerian when I heard the claims he was making. But Mr. Ologun, let's look at it critically. Let's look at his statements in a critical manner. For a national security advisor to be making such claims, what are his motives? That's my question. What are his motives? Because if the NSA should believe that Nigeria is totally safe, don't you think we have a problem? Or is this just pure and outright hypocrisy on his part?
We don't have a problem. We are in trouble. See, let us not trivialize these things. We don't just have a problem. We are in trouble as a people. If those who should know continue to deceive the commander-in-chief and begin to give wrong impressions, which is not tenable with even the simplest of Nigerians, then we are in trouble. We have a lot to be afraid of. Because you can imagine the quality of advice, the quality of reports that will be getting to the table of the president as the Grand Commander of the Armed Forces by the security advisor who is claiming that every part of Nigeria is safe. I dare him to go and join the bus in Kubwa and travel to Lagos by 10 p.m. and let him come back and tell me that Nigeria is safe. So we should be worried. We are in trouble. If those who are supposed to secure us are deceiving us, then it's worse than even political matters. It's worse than stealing. Because the fundamental duty, the primary duty of any government, as provided for by the Constitution, the grand norm of the country, is that it is the duty of the government to protect the life and properties of the citizens. That is the first duty of any government. So if those who are charged with that responsibility are the one flipping the narratives, are the one deceiving us, then we should be crying as a people because we are in trouble. It shows the quality of leadership. It shows the deceit that goes on in high places. It shows what they say to themselves when they sit down at Security Council. And it shows what they report to Mr. President. So if the president comes out tomorrow and calls Nigerians liars or says, oh, nobody is dying anywhere, then we should not blame him because that is dependent upon the quality of advice and the content of information that gets to his table. Then he's simply telling, Ribadu is simply telling us that Mr. President went on a jamboree to Benue State a couple of days ago. Because what will make Mr. President to cancel a scheduled program, a scheduled itinerary to quickly rush to Benue and commiserate with the people and hold the town hall meeting. So if that is what we saw and what happened 2 weeks ago in Benue, and Ribadu is coming 2 weeks after to say that every part of Nigeria is safe, what he's simply telling us is that don't mind Mr. President. He's a fool. He simply went on jamboree to Benue State. Nothing was happening there. That's exactly what he was telling us. Then he's simply telling us that the report this morning that Agwata local government in Anambra is under siege is false. He's simply telling us that those that were killed in Plateau State overnight, until this morning, those vigilantes, he's simply telling us that they are not worth more than cows. He's simply telling us that those who are losing their life in Northeast on a daily basis, those who are being kidnapped across the country, their life is worthless. That's what simply Ribadu is. If we live in a serious country, we should be calling for the resignation of Mr. Nuhu Ribadu by this morning because he has simply shown that he has no understanding of the office that he's sitting upon and is not fit for that seat.
Interesting there. Now, still talking about the man Nuhu Ribadu, Comrade Ayọ Ologun. Now, he was also, he spoke in Abuja at the 50th anniversary celebration of the Nigerian Defense Academy's 18 regular course, where he described the situation of the country as dire with security threats cutting across all regions of the country. Now, in a lecture titled Veterans as Significant National Asset, Ribadu proposed a national veteran security initiative to leverage the expertise of retired officers in intelligence, training, and peace building Now, he said the challenges spanned across the country, from the insurgency-ravaged northeast to the violence-plagued northwest, the restive Niger Delta, and separatist agitations in the southeast. And he later reaffirmed that the Tinubu's administration's commitment to overcoming what he termed inherited intractable security challenges. That was how he described them. And he said bold strides have been made in restoring security and rebuilding national confidence across the country. He disclosed that the government's counterinsurgency efforts have so far led to the neutralization of over 13,500 terrorists and criminals, while more than 124,000 Boko Haram and Iswap fighters, along with their families, have surrendered. So he added, Mr. Ologun, that security is not just the job of soldiers and police. It is everybody's business, and our success is due to the unified approach of all security agencies working as one team. So, in one guise, it seemed to agree that there are challenges, there are threats, there are agitations all over the place. But in that clip that you watched, he said, okay, we are doing better. You can move all around, and all of the things that he said. Is he a problem of him not expressing himself very well while acknowledging that, yes, there are issues, but we are doing well? Is that what you think he's trying to say? Because at the NDA program, he says something slightly different. That's number one. And you talk about what a policeman, the rank of his rank, while he retired, should know. I remember there are calls from Nigerians. There were calls that, okay, maybe we should charter a new course, because we've had former people of military background before. The last was Babagana Mungono, if you remember, under Muhammadu Buhari, which was still, many persons termed it to be a disaster. So let's look away from that. And then the police was looked at, and you are saying maybe it might not be the best person for the job. Look at those two issues.
See, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu is a man that speaks, obviously, from your narrative now, a man speaking from both sides of his mouth. A few days ago, you admitted challenges. A few days after, you are claiming that Nigeria is close to El Dorado, that it's as good as walking on the streets of heaven because you are safe. When you see such a man, for me, it is about two things. Number one, I've always said this, that look, the fact that you are a political office holder does not translate to the fact that you can open your mouth and say anything. Many of these people do not even have the responsibility, the respect for proper HR persons, for proper people that can model them. And that is why you see them speak gibberish. Look, when you occupy a political office, you must ensure that you have someone close to you who understands the concept of public speaking, who understands the concept of public conversations, who can tailor your thoughts and tell you exactly what to say, how to say it, and where to say it. And this cuts across. Mr. President is also guilty of the same, because those that they surround themselves with are yes, are men. People will tell them every good thing that they want to hear. That is why Mr. President will also go out there and fumble when he makes public speeches. Because those who are supposed to be their think tank, people that they are supposed to depend on for speech fine-tuning, they don't care. They don't believe because they occupy political office, they can say anything to anybody, anywhere, and anyhow. Of course, Mr. Wike is one of the examples. Mr. President, we can go on, and that is exactly what has happened to Ribadu. So how should I take serious a national security advisor who speaks contrary to reality? Let me tell you, it will have been a different thing. If as the public office holder of national security, you come out to say, look, we are making strides. Nobody is saying they are not making strides. Of course, there are record of achievement of the Nigerian military in the last few weeks. The number of military agitators or terrorists that they have neutralized, the number of cities that have been reintegrated in society, and all of that. So nobody is saying they are not making any strides. Nobody is saying that there are no achievements being made. Nobody is saying there are no efforts. But for you to come out, instead of you to say, look, we are making efforts. We know we are not yet there, but we are making efforts. They are records. These are records of what we have achieved. But we can assure you that we continue to work, we continue to make concerted efforts in ensuring that Nigeria is safer than it is at the moment, and people can freely move from one part of the country to another, that is responsible public speaking. Not when you speak against the obvious. That is on one part. The second part of your question is the quality of the persons. I insist, look, if only we live in a proper country, is when you can be talking about a policeman understanding the concept of security. We don't live in a regular country. We live in a war-like country. And so you don't expect that somebody who does not understand the depth or has led troops to face the insurgents and the kind of war we have seen in this country cannot be fit for the office of the NSA. Even a commissioner of police is as good as a yes boy. With due respect, without sending any models, I relate with a lot of them. Even when they see the obvious, even when they have files on their table that they know the thing to do, they know that a single call, a simple call from Abuja, whether from an assistant AIG or whatever, can change the course of the investigation of what they have to do.
Mr. Ologun,
so even when they
I gave the example of a Baba Gana Munguno who had a military background as well.
I'm coming to that.
Many persons said they didn't do well.
I'm coming to that. So I'm talking about to tell you that commissioner of police don't even know much. They don't do much while in office. They are simply coordinators. Not to not talk of an ACP. How many troops, how many missions has he attended? For him to have how many states has he traversed before becoming ACP? For him to even have an understanding of the dire need of the security architecture of the country, in a country where ordinary Air Force would not even respect a police officer, and Air Force, two Air Force officers will beat the policeman silly. Where there are no conditions, where they are not simulation is what you're talking about, ACP knowing the demand of the security architecture of the country. Now, talking about the Mungono, look, a man is not defined by his title. A man is defined by his character and his track record. Pardon me if I'm sounding like a broken record, but I've always said this. I don't care who you are. I judge you by your record. I judge you by your antecedents. I judge you by what is known of you. So the question is, it's not just enough to appoint a retired military leader or a retired military general or whatever as security advisor to the president. We also must also investigate the character, the integrity, and the record of such a man before he becomes what he is. We have had generals that were removed from office in this country for supplying ammunition to insurgents. We have many of them that were forcefully removed from the military and even tried because they became instruments in the hand of those who are against the country. So you tell me that such people cannot be polished in another 10 years and be recycled as national security advisor if there are no serious depth of intelligence and check on their records. So the question would be, the Munguno that you are using as an example, what was his track record while he was in the military? What did he achieve? What did he contribute to the peace, tranquility, progress, and well-being of the nation through his office as a senior military officer while he was in office? Can you compare his record to that of a Lagbaja that all of us are eulogizing even now that it's late? So, as much as I insist that only a proper retired or serving military officer should be the Nigerian security advisor, it also comes with the quality of who such a person is and not just title.
All right, Comrade Ologun. You have said that in saner climes that we should be calling for the resignation of the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, as a result of his statement. But we know, you and I know, that this is Nigeria. Even if we call for his resignation, he will not resign. So do you think at this point the president should caution the National Security Advisor, because he's an appointee of the president? So do you think the president should be cautioning him at this time, saying, no, this is not the situation in Nigeria?
Not just caution. Caution is not enough.
Oh, you think he should be fired? Should he be fired by the president?
Yes, he should be fired. And if we are to broaden the bracket, Mr. President critically needs a rejig of his cabinet. Many of the people that are sitting on the table with him as Federal Executive Council that are helping him to take decisions have no business being on that table. I'm sorry, I don't want to mention names, but many of those ministers are not fit more than being
Logan, please feel free to mention names. Let's learn. Feel free to mention names.
Mentioning him will be a total review of the ministries one by one. For me, if we have a sound mind president, if we have a president that is not more political than given to leadership, a Wike has no business in the cabinet of the Federal Republic at this time, because he's achieving little to less in that ministry that is occupying.
But the president is of the opinion that he's working. He has said it over and over again. He said Wike is working.
Singing his praise.
Yes, and the president likes him.
That tells you the quality of the person of Mr. President. Look, show me a man that is leading, and I will tell you who he is by the quality of people that he's surrounded with. The same thing goes for every human being.
So that we don't digress. Minister Wike has been commissioning 17 days of commissioning. Everybody is singing his praise. Everybody is singing their praise.
Tell me, a fool put into the public office will do some things right. I'm sure you've heard me say that. Put an idiot in the public office. He will do some things right, even if it is by mistake.
All right, Comrade Ologun, please.
How does that translate to governance? How does that translate to leadership?
Comrade Ologun, please hold on to that thought. We'll come back to that. We need to take a short break now. We'll be with you shortly. Please stay with us.
Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Thank you for staying with us. We're still talking to Comrade Ayọ Ologun concerning the situation, the comments made by National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu, his speech when he claimed that every part of Nigeria is absolutely safe, that there is no part of Nigeria you cannot travel to or move to. And he was actually eulogizing the security forces and telling them they're doing their best, their response is okay, and everything is absolutely fine. Now, Comrade Ayọ Ologun, you were about to land on the particular points there before we went on the break. So please proceed.
That perhaps the achievement or otherwise of Mr. President is premised on the quality of the advice that is coming from those that he sits in cabinet with. And I said that even with Mr. President, I will not only be talking about cautioning a Ribadu, I will be talking or thinking of absolute removal of him from office, especially when there are indicators that there are false shots in their security architecture of the country. And I was saying that it's not only him. And you said, I said maybe a Wike should not have been in cabinet at this time with all the baggages that it comes with. And you were saying it's commissioning project. And I said, this is one of the problems we have as a nation. What we think leadership is and what exactly leadership is. And because there are no leadership training, there are no traceable record of how people move from one office to the other, and now we judge their performances is where we are. Any idiot can build bridge. Any idiot can commission projects. All he needs to do is to initiate or maybe take advice, sign document and give it to those who will do that. That does not translate to leadership. So the fact that a man is commissioning projects all around does not speak to his character and does not speak to his thinking, does not speak to his leadership acumen. They are two different things. And I can go on and on. What is the minister? Tell me, even you as a journalist, myself as a journalist, if you are woken up from the side of the bed and asked, who is the Minister of Women Affairs today? You are not likely going to remember her name, except you Google search or you put it on your phone. That is to tell you that such a person is not performing. We are talking about the state of our airports in Nigeria and the fact that the airports are not viable and productive. Don't we have a Minister of Aviation? What has he done? How much rejig has he brought on board in the last 2 years that he has been Minister of Aviation? So we can go on and on. So if there is anything Mr. President should be thinking about, it is a serious rejig of his cabinet. We thought he was going to do that a while ago. He failed at it. It's still within the midterm time. It's midterm. And if we must have 5 achievements of him by the end of this tenure, then it has to begin with how many people he removed from cabinet for non-performance or lack of character and who he replaces them with.
Interesting one there. So so many questions to ask about that actually, because many persons have accused Mr. Ribadu of possibly too political, in the manner in which he speaks, and that they feel that might be a distraction for him, and he should do better after people. But then, yes, he is a politician. He has run to be president before. He has been in these movement for quite some time before finally, having a home in the APC. But then his experience, his exposure, and all of those things, and the reason best known to Mr. President has appointed him as NSA. Politics notwithstanding, really, because you talked about him, talking about his scorecard. You talked about the thousands of terrorists that have been neutralized, and more than 124,000 families, Boko Haram fighters and their families that have surrendered, for de-radicalization, all of those things. Shouldn't that count for something? His politics can be on the side, but then the man is saying, this is what we have done, this is what we have done. Even when you can say that particular clip where he made a statement was an overreaching, will you say that he has not really performed as an NSA?
You can't rule out, look, I've said this, I'm not one given to condemnation without accolades. You cannot take away those records of achievement. I mentioned it. Nobody can argue except that person is being political or being emphasized with the truth. Right. To say that nothing has been recorded security-wise. Of course, bandits have been neutralized, some lands have been regained, some local government in the far northeast have been reintegrated in society and all of that. Those records are not, they are there. They are not erasable. But if you put that on the aggregate of expectations of Nigerians and our reality, it is not good enough. So as much as a Nuhu Ribadu can be speaking and be spitting out what has been achieved under his watch by the heads of the military, he should be saying that to praise them and to encourage them to do more. Not coming out to speak absolute lies, to say all of a sudden Nigeria is now so safe that you can walk around any time of the day from one part of the country to another. That is fallacy. Yeah,
if I may quickly add something, sir, especially to his him being political. The Guardian, the Vanguard rather, is reporting today, and I think we had him in one of our headlines. I think it's the Vanguard as well. That he has been quoted to be saying, 2027, don't underestimate Tinubu. Ribadu wants opposition. That's where he said the political foes should not underestimate the president's leadership and commitment to transforming Nigeria, insisting that such critics belong to the past era with outdated ideas and failed records. He was quoted to have said, we have quality leadership today in our country. Mr. President is a digital president, and people who underestimate him are doing so at their own peril, And he was speaking about the ADC and all of those issues. Now, that's why I spoke about his political side. Do you think really that's a distraction for him? Because many people believed he shouldn't be concerned with this. Yes, you're a politician, you're a member of the APC. Anytime you speak, the office you occupy is a very sensitive one. Leave the politics for the APC and the other ministers. Can you concentrate on your work? But does that take away from what he's supposed to do as a person? Now that he's talking about 2027 already.
Femi, does the APC not have a spokesperson? Does Mr. President not have a retinue of media advisors? The Onanugas and the rest of them. He has them. They should be the ones picking those words coming from Nuhu Ribadu. Those ones are the ones that should be telling us the strength and the weaknesses of Mr. President. They should be the one telling us why we should not underrate him or why he should be underrated. All of that are the businesses of Onanuga and I've forgotten his name, the Prime Minister of Sport and the rest, Sunday Dare and the rest of them. Right. Because they are being paid to be image makers and image polishers. But when you see a man who is supposed to be apolitical, look, I tell you, some of these leaders don't understand the requirement of the office they occupy. The fact that you're a politician, the moment you are appointed as a security advisor, The only thing that should be paramount in your mind, that should matter to you, is the coordination of the security apparatus of the country and how Nigeria's territory and men and women and even those who are visitors and dwellers are protected. Nuhu Ribadu should have left politics. It's an instruction to him. Even if you know that, that should be within him. He shouldn't be splitting it out. And that's why I talk about communication and how these people get prepped. Look, I don't know. With due respect, I've been privileged to be in position or being on a team where a couple of public office holders are being prepped for public speaking and whatever. And these are some of the things that happens in such meetings or in such sessions when they begin to tell you, oh, it's my principal. And I tell, oh, which principal? I'm not saying not to be, I'm not asking you not to be loyal to whoever appointed you. But the dictates of the office you occupy should limit what you say, and where you say the things that you say. So those words coming from Nuhu Ribadu is misplaced. They are words that should not be coming from his mouth by the position of the office he occupies, because that is pure distraction. You are simply telling us that if Mr. President tells you to go and do something that is tantamount or anti-progressive or different from the dictate of your office, you will do it because you love Mr. President so much. That means you're telling us that you love Mr. President more than you love Nigeria. That is not loyalty. That is misplaced priority.
All right, Comrade Ologun. Yesterday on the program, we talked about the Stockholm effect. The question is, what if? And I'm saying just what if the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, sincerely believes in what he's saying? What if he's convinced that that's the truth?
Which of the truths? Convinced about what exactly? I want to know what you're talking about that he's convinced about.
That Nigeria is absolutely safe. That you can move anywhere. What if he believes in that? What if that is his own reality?
How does his own reality becomes a national reality?
That's the Stockholm effect we're talking about. What if he has convinced himself that that's the truth?
This is like the case of a man whose wife has been caught in adultery severally. And anytime they report it to him, he tells him, he says to them, I believe my wife. That is his reality, isn't it? That's the Stockholm event you're talking about. But does his reality take away the reality in its real sense? That is self-deceit. So, Nuhu Ribadu's reality is not in tandem with the reality of the facts on ground and what we witness as a country. And the only thing that is valid is the reality of Nigerians. The opinion of one man out of several millions of men will not eventually count. That statement will not protect you or myself. So that is self-deceit. So if he chooses to live in self-deceit, that does not state that his reality is the reality of Nigeria.
Interesting realities there.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on from this conversation. Now, the dust is here to settle, Mr. Ologun. You know this terrain very well, especially as the local government administration is concerned here in Osun State. It has been comatose for some time now, since February. Local government workers under the aegis of Norge have been at home because of what happened. Different court cases and rulings, and many persons, in fact, are just tired of what is happening, especially as the APC in Osun Lane claims they have been the one at the councils with no workers to work with, and the PDP, the